Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mass Communication 310. This is the second part of our branding video in which we are going to be talking about how you can plan the design using a brand. So what makes up a brand? Again, from video one, you may remember that a brand is a set of characteristics that helps an audience differentiate a business, product, service, or project from its competitors. And a brand can be everything from the words and images that the company uses to the sounds and smells that they provide. So a brand can be anything that provides consistency and clarity to your audience to help differentiate you from others. So, the idea is that you really need to start your brand early because the more recognizable your brand becomes, the less money you have to spend to actually advertise your business and the less work you have to do in order to make yourself legitimate and communicate with others. So here's an example of how large brands are able to really help uh, the communication of that brand to their audience.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Red Hot, Big Red.
No, it's
that red hot sauce.
Hot Wheels.
no.
Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels.
Walmart.
Oh,
Wow,
I didn't.
Chili.
Chili's.
Chili's.
Whoa,
Well,
Wendy.
he's
She
back.
missed.
Dang it. Delta.
Wow.
UPS.
Windows.
Oh,
Isn't that Windows?
United States Postal Service.
No, that's is that not
What is that? That's
Nah.
Salvation Army.
Close.
Microsoft Word.
Close.
Goodwill.
Goodwill, yeah.
Goodwill. There it is.
Wikipedia.
So you can see that some brands are more effective in their logo and recognition than others. But it just shows you that without doing very much, people are able to recognize who you are and what you do. So, in order to create a brand, there are three parts to any brand: verbal, visual, and emotional. Now, the verbal part is what your audience hears or reads. It can include your name, your slogan, brand story, personality, values, tone of voice, style of language, all things we're going to talk about in this video. The visual elements of your brand are the design choices that you make, what we're going to be talking about through the rest of the semester. So this includes your logo, your sub brands, graphics, typeface, color palettes, imagery, campaigns. And then your emotional brand is how you're supposed to make your audience feel when they see your brand. So, for example, Hallmark wants you to feel all warm and fuzzy inside because they are a greeting card company. Where, a tattoo shop wants to have a brand that probably is a little more hard exterior, and they want you to feel tough and, whatever, maybe cool and trendy. So, thinking about how your brand drives emotion is important too. And the way that you get that emotion, of course, is through your visual and verbal brand. So, all three of these factors work together to make up your brand. So, in creating a verbal brand, there are a couple of things that you need to make. And we're going to go through each of these individually. But the main idea is that you need to make them consistent. If you have a summary line or a tagline that is outside your tone of voice, then it just doesn't work. So everything really needs to work together in a verbal brand to inspire your audience and help differentiate you in the market. So, a summary line simply describes your project. It sums it up. Sometimes this is a slogan or a tagline, like "just do it" for Nike, or sometimes it's an actual sentence, like we have here from LinkedIn. Welcome to LinkedIn, the world's largest professional network with nearly 740 million members in more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. This tells you that it is a professional network, and that describes the project of LinkedIn. Meanwhile, the summary line for this particular grill is "for a look as bold as the food." So it's talking about the visual design of the actual grill itself and how it makes really bold food. So the idea behind a summary line in your verbal brand is that it sums up the project. Now, brand names are important because it's exactly what people are going to call you. It's what makes you unique and memorable and descriptive. Just make sure that it's appropriate and that you think through it like a second grade boy would, and make sure it's not super funny like these are. I won't repeat those for you. But the name of your brand is really important, as is your project's personality and values. As I talked about earlier, Hallmark has the personality of being well liked, warm, a respected family member. While the brand personality of something like Apple would be non corporate, artistic, sophisticated, and creative. So you want to think like, what is my project really about? If my project were a person, what would it act like? What are its values? And in order to do a brand personality, you can take a graphic like this and think through, what is my brand actually like? Is it more formal and corporate, or is it personable and relatable? Is it fun or serious? And check these off. And then once you find the ones that are, far over on each side, those then become your key points and phrases that you can use in your verbal branding. Now, a makeup of a brand is pretty important, especially your tag and your tone of voice, because all of the keywords that you get from this kind of exercise is going to help you create the verbal tone and tags that you use. So, L'Oreal Paris, you may know their tagline. Because you're worth it, right? Because they want you to feel like this is luxury that's affordable. Meanwhile, McDonald's is ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it, right? And that's what they're known for. They're just known for being something that you love to get, that it's fun. Now, a brand story is how you want your audience to know you and your project in 2 to 3 paragraphs. You're going to create a shorter brand story for use on social media, but typically a brand story tells your audience what your brand is all about. So Tom's tells the story, of how they use their business to improve lives by donating shoes when you buy shoes. So they tell their brand story in this way. Other brand stories for like the GoPro Hero 10, for example, may just use keywords or visuals to tell their story. Faster, easier. So you can see by the choices that they make for what words to put on the screen, these are their brand stories. This uploads fast into the cloud. It is easy to do these things, right? It has an app. You can do stills, you can do videos. And notice that the visuals really tell a brand story as well, because they're actually using the product to shoot this commercial. And so this is kind of like a visual brand story for this product. Now, tone of voice is very important as well. You need to think about, what does the voice of our company, our project sound like? And this needs to be consistent throughout all of your messaging, because you don't want a really formal tone of voice in one piece of communication, but then have something that's nonchalant and flippant in the other, because your audience won't know whether to take you seriously or not for your formal communication. So decide on a tone of voice and stick with it. It's going to affect your other design choices as well. So for example, for YR Media, which is actually a news outlet, they want to have these kinds of tones of voice, which is different than your traditional news outlet. And this should affect the types of stories that they do, their layout, the color choices that they use. Even in creating this brief, you can see they're using light, bright kind of, conversational and accessible font. And so other design choices will be affected by the choices that you make in your verbal brand. So throughout the rest of the semester, we're going to be talking about our visual brand and how we create branding and design through things like type and colors, imagery, and layout. But I want you to keep in mind that we're always working within some kind of brand structure as we're designing. And so it's important to think about how you actually process a brand and come up with a brand or reevaluate a brand on each new product, like we talked about in video 1, but also thinking how the verbal brand can combine with the visual brand and then the emotional response to create your company's brand and differentiation for everything that you design. So now that you've watched both lecture videos, make sure you do your discussion board post on branding and then go through the readings for type in Canvas. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will see you in week 3.